Oh, there we go. So digital asset management and media asset management. So we're going to jump between Matt and I on this section just because it's a segment that's close to our hearts. So there's a couple of things to consider, and it's obviously a very broad topic and quite specific at the same time, which you'll see in a second. So digital asset management. Digital asset management, production asset management, media asset management. There is a difference between the three, but the lines are definitely getting blurred. So the way that we look at digital asset management and the asset management side of things is really how granular you want the management to go. So traditionally, you've probably looked at digital asset management for things like stills, small video files, and quite a number of varied digital assets and projects. So an example of that is Extensis portfolio. Extensis have done a number of implementations locally and also globally. So really, that's come from the pre-press side of things, and you may have seen digital asset management tools like Canto Cumulus. There's a couple of others that are out there. So that's really come from that stills background. Obviously, the advent of video and the NLE and that becoming more and more prevalent, there's obviously been a number of vendors like Extensis that have gone down the line of trying to integrate video into that. Now, it's not primarily a video workflow. It's not primarily a video asset manager, and there are obviously limitations around what they can provide, and not taking anything away from the product. I think it's an absolutely fantastic product, but obviously the changes in codecs and the changes in workflows that happen so rapidly in post-production, broadcast, and really any of the production environments means that people have had to readdress what they want to do in terms of managing their assets. So the buzzword is PAM, production asset management. So this has really come out of the NLE side of things. So there's been obviously with a number of different platforms. So your Premiere, your Media 100, your Final Cut, your Avid, your Edius, all the different type of ways that people deal with codecs and also project files means that there's a hell of a lot of different ways to actually address asset management on the NLE side of things. So traditionally what a PAM would be in its broadest form would be it manages the assets and the asset databases. So how their assets are indexed, how they're searched, whether you've got proxy generation, whether you need review and approval. So it's really on that production aspect. How do I work collaboratively with a number of people on an individual project? So some examples of that. Traditionally, there's been Final Cut Server, and obviously that's gone now. There are still a number of places that are using it, but it is still ticking along. But it has been end of life. So one of the good project managers / production asset management systems is definitely the Edit Share side of things. I know I'm working backwards. There is a reason for that, and Edit Share have been able to do a number of things around project files and project workspaces with a number of different platforms. So that's Final Cut and Avid, for instance. When you look at Premiere, certainly our pick definitely of the show was Axel for Premiere, and Matt's going to go into a bit of that as well. But that's been born really out of being able to both index your assets and all of your asset management side of things, but also be able to do rough cut edits and things like that. The one that you've heard probably a number of times today is the Avid Interplay for Media Composer and Symphony. So Avid Interplay is arguably the best production asset management system if you're running an Avid house and you are needing to have a lot of editors working on the same material, the same projects. So just to cover that off, Production asset management is really managing the production. I don't want to sound too reductionist on that, but it's really around that production side of things and enacting workflow efficiencies for a production. Media asset management, again, is slightly different. Now, there is no sort of set in stone borders as to what a MAM is and what a PAM is. It does come down to the individual implementation and the individual software application that you use. So the media asset management is more along the lines of how you manage the assets as a whole, less about how you directly integrate with project management and project sharing and offline, online workflows, etc., etc. It's really managing masses of assets as opposed to getting down into the granular detail. So as you can see up the top, how granular do you want the management to go is really what's going to define what asset management you go with. So some examples, one of which we'll be talking about today, which is Cantemo's Portal. I absolutely love this product. Now, Matt and I will probably jump backwards and forwards on that one as well, because it is a very, very exciting product. And obviously, you've also got Avid's Blue Order, which they spend a lot of time integrating with their customers' facilities, and there's a number of implementations locally as well. Just flip over now. So I've told you all of that, and you're probably sitting there going, well, that's all well and good, but which one's the right one to me, right one for me to pick? And it really depends on how you want to address your asset management. What are the pain points that you get in your facility? The lines are certainly blurred between a lot of these software packages and a lot of these applications. So, in being able to decide which one you've got, I've got some example questions there. Do you have trouble managing the assets just in general? Like not I want to make sure that my proxy files are rendered to a certain aspect. It's not what we're sort of looking at. Do you want to track the revisions of the assets? That's certainly available in some products, but not in others. Do you want a central production hub? Do you need the NLE projects to live in a certain environment and do bin level locking, all that sort of stuff for your Avids, or that sort of functionality you do need to scope out quite finitely, just to make sure that you're getting the right product for what you need. Other things that you'll probably see in Axel, do you want a rough cut editor? It sounds like a very simple thing, but the productivity that you can get from a workflow, from a rough cut editor, is quite amazing. So how do you want people accessing material? All this stuff, and as I say, the list goes on. And the reason is that there is not a one size fits all. You do need to work with your solutions provider, and definitely work with the Digistor sales guys who are actually extremely technical as well, and they know what production's like. So definitely work with us and our pre-sales guys, and we'd love to help you out. So how do you get started in exploring your options? A, give us a call. B, have a look at the products that we're about to show you, and C, there's a lot of them in the industry, and there's not the right one and there's not the wrong one. There's the one that's most appropriate to you. So in saying that, I'll just pass over to Matt. He's going to cover off Axel and Cantemo, and then I'll jump back in.
So after that little speech by Sean, I'm sure you can see just how important asset management is, and it's surprising as to how few people do it. In the past, it's always approached a 5-figure conversation by the time you purchase software, hardware, and deploy. That's now changed with Axel. I was amazed at NAB as to how these guys appeared to come out of nowhere and have such a huge presence, and had a pod on just about every single storage vendor's stand, including DVS, Small Tree, and Dynamic Drive Pool, who we spoke about earlier, in addition to their own stand. Sam Bogosh, and I hope I pronounced his name right, he's a really, really nice guy, very helpful, is the CEO, and he is ex-Avid, and was one of the main guys working on Interplay, so he does know a thing or two. Fortunately, he's developed this product, which is very affordable and easy to use, and it runs on a Mac Mini. In terms of storage, where you keep all your media, it doesn't matter. It simply watches the folder structure you currently use and replicates that into the database on the Mac Mini. It uses the web Apache services available in the Mac Mini, so you can actually take it on set and have it catalog all your assets and metadata, and you're ready to edit. Cost-wise, it's only $12.95 per 5 users, and if you want it pre-installed on a Mac Mini, all you need to do is give it an IP address. It's 2600. What they also have is something called Axel Gear, which is a rack mount appliance with 2 Mac Minis. One is running Episode Pro from Telestream, the other is running Axel. So on top of managing your media assets, you can transcode high-res clips too. So you can have it doing digital dailies done that way, because you can create a ProRes and a proxy file using the watch folder capability. So for the Axel Gear solution, you're looking at $69.95 ex GST. Let's delve into the feature set in a little bit more detail. So you can sort your footage by project and by client. Axel lets you categorize the media by project, and Axel's user management ensures that only those authorized get to see the media that's relevant to them. Let your client upload and log media. The client can be a direct contributor to the project. Using a simple web browser, the client can upload new footage or review, annotate, and log existing media in the library from wherever they are. Discuss the work. Each media asset has a conversation view, so you and your client can share comments pointing to specific sections of the media, so it's easy to capture each other's input quickly. It's got integrated review and approval. The client can view output media as it's being created. And then once you want to start locking material down, they can lock it down as approved or reject it, sending back their comments. If you're not online on the system, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. You can make sure you get notified by email the minute a client adds a comment. You can offload bandwidth with the cloud option. If you're concerned that running a streaming server from your facility will eat up bandwidth, Axel's cloud option uploads your proxies to a high-performance streaming server that ensures your customers can reliably view your material from wherever they are without being constrained by your facility's internet connection. All in all, it's a pretty awesome product, ideal for smaller facilities. Jordan and I spent a bit of time on the Axel stand talking to the guys. And Jordan is our technical services manager, so anything you need to know about the product, if you want to try it out, let us know. We can assist with getting you up and running. Moving on to Cantemo, which I would class as an enterprise MAM solution. Their aim is to deliver a MAM that allows you to start small but still be able to think big and scale fast. So they deliver a complete tool set that the customer can expand and tailor to fit its needs. There's 2 editions of the software. The standard edition can handle up to 60 users and 1 million assets and runs on Linux. The enterprise edition is for those with 60 plus, users and more than 1 million assets, and can run on Linux and Windows, and offers high availability options as well. Both versions support most workflows from ingest to archive. They have, for example, an annotation tool, a rough cut editor, and very advanced metadata support and search and browsing. The software is fully web-based. It's HTML5, so there is no client installation required, and it has a very clean and intuitive user interface. And what I really love is it has a comprehensive extension layer where integrators like Digistore can extend the solution even more for you. So we can build new features and new integration points for third-party solutions. So if you have any in-house applications, we can get them talking via the API. So around the core, Cantemo has created apps. For instance, there's a Final Cut Pro and a Premiere integration app. There's a Media Composer one that was previewed at NAB and is on the way. And there are a number of partners, like there's a community worldwide that have created apps for Cantemo. So who should be looking at Cantemo? Larger production houses, we're already talking to a few already, ad agencies, broadcasters, universities, just to name a few. The largest installation to date has over 1,000 users, automated high availability, including load balancing, millions of assets, hundreds of NLEs, and a transcode cluster which has about 40 servers. So you can kind of see just how big you can scale out with Cantemo, which is what sets them apart from Axel, who we spoke about earlier. Some cool things you can do is change the theming and logo. There is an active directory integration and some powerful features around users and groups. Users and groups have very strong needs in media asset management, and Cantemo has some great support for this. It's at the heart of the system. For example, groups can be created which match those in your facility, the roles that they may have, or they can match up to groups of your clients. On groups, and one of the most important things to know is that with groups, you can apply roles to those groups, and this lets you control the functionality within the system. Who can read collections, who can read metadata, who can ingest into the system, who can do searches, who is able to write, and who is able to delete things. And once you have the roles set up on the groups, the users within the group can inherit from that. The access control lists use the users and groups to say who's allowed to access to what media, who's allowed to see and manipulate. It creates a very, very secure system. Different users and groups can be denied access to even search and find material, meaning you can have competing clients on the same system without them being able to see or download each other's media. But you can have an editor who works with both clients view everything. In the core solution is a very capable built-in transcoder. It has a very comprehensive format support, not just for video, but audio files. The types of formats supported are the major broadcast and professional formats, as well as transcoding to other formats typically used for output, playout, distribution, web and mobile devices. This slide, if you can actually see it, shows a number of profiles that have been set up. For instance, I have a low res for creating the proxy image used for showing in the web interface. Now, talking about metadata with this slide, you have the ability to create metadata schemas and forms and enter information against an item. You could have been pre-populated with XML, and there is the ability to extract metadata from different file formats such as XMP and the other data and put that in there. And based on the metadata, you can do some very, very powerful advanced searches. With the NLE integration, you can even do searches from within, say, Premiere or Final Cut and open material and drag it into the timeline. So not all users will have access to NLEs or have the experience using one. Perhaps the machines aren't capable of running the NLE, and what Cantemo has is a rough cut editing app. With this interface is a source panel where you can find the material, that's on the left there, 2 players on the right, and a timeline down the bottom. So you can search for material, load it up, and set in and out points which end up on the timeline, which you can then preview. So the player is frame accurate and allows you to do edits and build up from the media bin down the bottom. A typical workflow would be doing searches, collecting material, search or drag things into your rough cut editor and save as a sequence. There are some really cool third-party apps developed. One of them is by Mood Systems, and it's called Archive. This allows you to simply right-click on an asset and archive the tape. For anyone who knows Matt Geller from the old Xanity days, his company has created a script runner tool. So for instance, it can listen for metadata changes and trigger a script, which might be sending an email, generating a proxy, and this would also work very well in a review and approve type workflow. If you would like to see more of Portal, Digistore recently did a very in-depth demo. It goes for about an hour and a half with the Cantemo guys, and this is available on YouTube. So let us know and we can send you the link. And if you want to test out the software, all we need is your MAC address, and we can cut you a 30-day eval and even help you get it up and running. So now I'm just going to hand it back to Sean.
Thanks for that, Matt. Obviously, Cantemo is one of the products that we do love. We did spend a lot of time with a number of clients at NAB on Cantemo. I guess the the value add for Cantemo over and above many MAM systems is the fact that it is so configurable. And Matt mentioned that, but I just wanted to reaffirm that the APIs are very, very open, and the developer network for Cantemo has exploded really over the last 12 months. There's as Matt said, there's apps for Final Cut Pro, Final Cut X, Premiere, CS6. And really, how I'm reading it and what I would be suggesting is they've actually looked at a number of effective systems like your Interplays to be able to create apps that live inside the NLE application. So from a user's point of view, being able to have their project open, edit away, and then say, well, I actually need all this material. Where do I find it? And as opposed to defaulting them back to the Finder to go through the file system, whether it's local, whether it's on a SAN, whether it's on a NAS, whatever that is, be able to search directly within the NLE is something that saves a hell of a lot of time and takes a lot of the think work and the management out of the users day to day. So being able to pull that out, fantastic. Being able to do your rough cuts and your search your metadata in the browser as well. If you're quite a large organization, you have a production environment of, let's say, 10 or 20 users, and you have a sales department, for instance, or you have a marketing department that need to interrogate that database and pull individual assets out for either a sales pitch or an EDM or whatever that is, you can actually just give them just the browser-based access without the need for having a heavyweight client in there as well. For anyone still using Final Cut Server, what I really, really like is that they have a Final Cut Server migration application, and that's excellent. There's a number of large facilities that are out there at the moment that are still utilizing it. So the ability to take an asset management system, which in its own a MAM solution, which in its own right is a very, very complex thing to set up, being able to migrate it over to a new storage pool or a new database and not actually have downtime, I think is quite incredible. So they've still got the annotation tool and the rules engine that Matt mentioned, but really getting into the foundations of the application itself and getting into the developers network, you can see how much work is being done on it, and it's actually a revenue stream for a lot of people that are putting in larger implementations to be able to sell apps to add on to the Cantemo backbone. So yeah, I've stayed on that one slide for a bit too long, so let's get going on to the next one. Okay, so a product that I've seen around the traps for probably about 12 to 24 months is FlavorSys. They have strawberry and mint. I thought that the logo was quite strange from first impressions, and I didn't really get into the product until probably this year. First thing that I really loved about it was they actually spelt the word flavor right, which was fantastic. You run around NAB seeing all the different spellings of the words. So being able to see flavor as spelt correctly. But the guys themselves have created this as a production asset management system, and it's quite exciting. So we are still very new to the system, but we definitely want people to check it out. And the reason that we want you guys to check it out is because it's an add-on system. It's not a have to start from scratch solution. It's a system that you can bolt directly onto your existing storage and scale out from there. So what does it do? It does your project sharing, like Axel does for Avid and Final Cut and Premiere. It does bin level locking, which all the Avid users go, oh, thank God it does that. It'll track your work in progress assets and the projects. What I do like is it has a Google style interface in that, in the browser you are able to search through the database itself with the keywords, and everyone knows how quick Google is. It's a very very fast and robust system. It does all your proxy clip generation. It does all your user rights as well. Uh, Next slide. There we go. One thing that I really want to call out here is that it is storage independent. Most asset management systems will say that, oh, we only do this or we only do that. You have a look at the storage platforms that are there. SNFS, which is your StoreNext file system. The Blue Whale, Infotrend actually utilizes that. You've got your Xan, although you should be going to SNFS. But really anything that has POSIX in the actual file system can utilize this and bolt directly on top. So you can see the little strawberry in the top right hand corner. You can put a 1RU server in there, have it mount the file system, and away you go. What's useful for people? Cantemo can do this, and I believe Axel can do it to a certain extent. Is the push to archive. Again, it sort of links back to Matt's presentation on storage and archive, but really the ability to say, I've got all this material, I've got this project file, and I just want to get it off the system. I want to get it off in the fastest way possible. So what the system can actually do is it can actually pull it into a tar file, which is a compressed file, to be able to put it onto LTO or LTFS or onto a second file system. If you have a nearline storage or a NAS appliance that you want to utilize, you can definitely do that. So it does all the bin level locking you could possibly want. Avid's obviously the most important. Final Cut Pro 7, you probably should be, if you're on Final Cut Pro 7, I'd probably be looking at Premiere or Avid by this stage. And Pro Tools, which is an interesting one. So being able to do Pro Tools and Media Composer and be able to do After Effects. So the list does go on and on and on and on and on. So definitely have a look at it. Now, the thing that threw me for 6, and I think the reason that we haven't pushed it previously, is the interface. Now, it looks like Windows 8. It's not Windows 8. It looks like Windows 8. But once you start actually utilizing it, it makes a lot of sense from an intuitive point of view. So being able to create new projects very, very simply and be able to annotate that immediately. I think a lot of people's reticence to look at asset management systems is because of the complexity of the front end. So many text boxes, so many radio buttons, so many pull down menus, etc., etc. I think this makes it really, really easy. On the right-hand side, you can see the teams, whether you want to add people to teams or remove people from teams, and also update those. The lists of projects and the search fields are there. So quite an interesting interface when you launch it. Similarly, when you're actually searching, very simple, very, very easy. Now, I think that's of a major value add to FlavorSys over and above many other PAM solutions, in that it makes it very, very simple to deal with. So very, very interesting. The software itself can be OEM'd as well. If you're looking at DVS Spicerbox or the DVS SAN, that can be implemented on that system as well. If you don't want to use their content management system, which is Spicer. So certainly the level of integration that it can do on many different file systems is fantastic. If you're an Isilon house as well, it's probably worth mentioning. If you want to use Isilon, we can absolutely integrate that for you, as we are an Isilon partner, and obviously we're a FlavorSys partner as well. So definitely have the conversation with us. We'd love to be able to help you out on that side of things. We've got a request for a link. Is that the link for which software package are you looking for? If that's okay, so that's for Cantemo. No problems. Um, so Axel compatible with Avid, Smoke, and possibly Lightworks. I believe Avid's in the pipe for later this year. Could be an IBC release. Smoke, I don't believe so. We'd have to look at that. Smoke, the way Smoke projects work is slightly different, but certainly we can have a chat about that. And Lightworks, don't believe so. I don't believe so, but we'll certainly ask the question. The roadmaps are generally, 1 to 2 years out, so we can, we'll definitely ask the question on that one. So what I might do is send you the costings, the per seat costings and the server costings. There is 2 levels as well, so we can send that through. I've got your name there, so that I'll assign that question to your email address. Okay. Does Flavor have an online side for clients? I believe you can access it through the through the web browser, but you also have the client side license as well, so we can go through that. FlavorSys integrate with ISIS. Yes and no. So if you wanted to utilize FlavorSys on ISIS, for instance, it would depend on what NLE you're using, but really it would need to be a bigger discussion regarding bandwidth and things like that. So if you are using Media Composer, you do get your bin level locking anyway. You don't get the full asset management, which is obviously what you're looking for. But you could look at Interplay as well as FlavorSys. So I've got your name down there, and I'll get someone to give you a call on that in terms of dollars and cents and how that would integrate.